Welcome everyone. Thank you for coming and spending time with us today. I wanted to pass out a brochure. Go ahead. Sure. So this brochure is one of the systems that we're showing today. How many of you are carpet cleaning professionals or have cleaned carpet in the past? A few of you, okay. So there's two systems that we're looking at here today. One is what's called wet extraction, which is you spray water into the carpet, suck it back out with the dirt. The other is what's miscalled dry extraction system. It's really not totally dry, but it's the host system. And how it works is with a moist sponge, you clean the carpet. And we'll go through that, but that's the difference between these two things. So what makes these things work is if you think of, a hard surface that you typically clean, and you know how to clean those. They're easier to clean because they're flat and smooth. But you use some kind of detergent system to loosen the soil from the surface, and then you absorb it in some way with a rag, a sponge, some way, suck it up, and you get it off that surface, and it's dry. So what's the difference between a flat surface then and a non-flat surface, a carpet? It's just the texture of the carpet creates a little bit more of a challenge for us. So if you think of a carpet, these are all the fibers. The dirt, the same dirt that basically dust and dirt that falls on a hard surface floor, falls on a carpet. So we have to determine how often do we need to clean that carpet, because most people clean their hard surface floors more regularly than they do their carpet. So the thing to do with whatever system you're using to clean your carpets, always vacuum. We don't have a vacuum here, but the vacuum is really the key to keeping carpets clean, because you extract a lot of soil with your vacuum, the dry soils. So when you are coming back with one of these systems, you're actually wanting to do almost a restorative type thing to carpet. Sort of like, buffing or mopping or whatever, restorative cleaning to a floor, where you would, you're not just damp mopping, you're doing some more restorative work. So that's kind of the comparison. So the key to success on carpet is to have a good vacuum, one that gets deep down and cleans. So just to draw a comparison then between these two systems, when I said this one is considered a dry system, dry extraction cleaning, it's a little bit of a misnomer or not accurate, because what it is in this bag is ground up cellulose. So again, to jump back to cleaning a hard surface so we can get in our mind's eye the concept of how this works. So if we were going to clean this table with a sponge, a cellulose sponge, if we took that sponge and if we took it dry and just tried to clean, we'd get nothing, because it's not working, it's just moving around. If you totally saturate the sponge so that it's absorbed all the water that it can, and you go to the surface, you're just moving the dirt around because it's unable to absorb anything. So when we clean with a cellulose sponge, we wet it, but we wring it out. And the reason being is we take, say this was a cleaner, we would introduce some type of detergent system to the surface to loosen the soil, and then we take the sponge, and the damp sponge absorbs this liquid solution with the dirt, and then we can wring it out somewhere else. So we're extracting soil even from a hard surface. So we all understand that concept because we're cleaning our sinks, our bathrooms and things with a sponge. Same thing with this system. So if you take a cellulose sponge, grind it up into little bits, so real tiny, teeny sponges, add a little small amount of moisture and detergent into this sealed bag. So you've got damp sponge in this bag. We introduce it into the carpet, brush it into the carpet with a certain type of brush I'll show you. That's the same thing as moving the sponge on a hard surface. Now we're agitating the sponge onto the fibers of the carpet, and same thing, we're removing the soil from those fibers, and then we vacuum that. So that's how this system works. How does a wet extraction system work? It's a little more easier to understand. So you've got two tanks. You load the first tank, your solution, with water and one of these two products back here. Always dilute these at the proper dilution. If more is better, that's not going to work. I mean, in this system especially. Because what happens on a wet extraction system, where this one, 2 ounces to the gallon. So 2 ounces to the gallon will work. 4 ounces to the gallon, you'll be fighting yourself. You'll be extracting dirt still, but what will happen is the detergent will be too much. It will leave a residue in there, and residue in your carpet attracts dirt. So you'll wonder why I have to go back and clean it again sooner, and you're just fighting yourself, because the thing with wet extraction is you never get everything out. Not that it doesn't work, I'm not saying that. But say this tank is about a 6 or 8 gallon tank. You put 6 or 8 gallons in there, spray it into the carpet, and when you suck it out, you're not going to get all 8 gallons back out. So there's always some little residual that's left in the carpet. Hopefully, if you've done it and done it well, that little bit of water will just evaporate. But if you oversaturate it with too much detergent or spotter, things like that, then it's hard to extract it all out. So always follow the label directions, even when you think, it's really dirty, I better use a lot more. Follow the label directions. So if it says maximum for heavy soils, 3 ounces to the gallon, don't go overboard, and always measure. I've never seen anybody in my many years of working in this industry able to pour from a gallon or even a quart where it says 2 ounces. I don't know anyone that can pour 2 ounces from this accurately. It's not possible. So always use the measuring cup. So that's kind of contrasting these two types of systems. A few other things that contrast between these two is this system is easier to use. This system would be used in traffic lane areas. You can do a lot better work in a traffic lane. So dirt comes into the building, 80%, this is an industry statistic, 80% of the dirt that comes into the building, any building, comes in on our shoe, 80%. So the rest just comes in, as we're opening and closing doors through the ventilating system or whatever, but 80% comes in on our shoes. So the first line of defense that we want to have for protecting any floor, and carpeting especially, is a good mat system at the door. So if you can catch it at the door, you're better off. But now what happens at that point, whatever doesn't get caught by the doormat starts migrating into the room, into the building. And so the thicker amount of dirt is just off the doormat and then runs wherever everybody walks. So you have what's called traffic lanes or walking patterns that develop. The dirt doesn't uniformly spread across the entire floor or carpet. So in order to have a comprehensive or a good carpet care maintenance system, you want to address those dirtier spots, and nobody walks right up against the wall. So right up against the wall, it's not as dirty as in the middle of the walking area. You following me? So how do you address that? With this system, you can do that easier than with this system. And I'm not saying with a wet extraction system you can't do it. What happens with a wet extraction, you have to kind of feather the water a little bit so you don't have lines, because as you're extracting, you're leaving a water line, and that will show up once it dries. With this system, you can feather that and do the traffic lanes a little easier. So that's an advantage here. An advantage here is you're not leaving as much residue in the carpet. You can extract a little more of the solution, and I'll show you how that differs when we go into the demonstration. So that's a little bit of that. If you're a professional carpet cleaner and you're going to do a commercial job or even a residential job, the important thing is, I said, vacuum ahead of time. It would be even better if you could use what's called a pile lifter vacuum, which I'll show you on this host machine what that kind of looks like. But a pile lifter has a larger cylindrical brush. On a normal vacuum, you've got about a 2.5 inch diameter brush. A pile lifter will have a 4 or 5 inch diameter brush, cylindrical brush, with instead of just rows of bristles, they have tufted bristles, real stiff bristles. And what that does is, so you're not wanting to open up the fibers of the carpet and get it ready to either wet extract or semi-dry extract. So you use this pile lifter, it lifts the pile. So, you know, a normal carpet when you buy it, whether it's looped or cut pile, you know, it's kind of standing like this. And over time it tends to kind of mat down, crush down. So what you want to do is open it up and you're sucking out all the dry soil with the vacuum that you can get. And so what that does is it opens up the fibers to better accept the extraction system when you go for the second pass. So if you have the opportunity to do that, either vacuum really well with whatever vacuum you have, or if you have access to a more industrial, heavier duty vacuum with this tufted brush, and again I'll show you that in a second. But so vacuuming is key. Pile lifting, they call it, is also a big advantage. And then on a normal basis, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, then you would spot. So you always spot before you do the main extraction carpet cleaning. And I'm guessing you all know that, but anyway, that's the process. So first vacuum, then spot, then traffic lanes, and then if you're doing the whole area, then that's the next thing you do. So we have a whole system here of different products that do those different things. And then in the host system, essentially, it's this one main product. Host does make a spotter, a liquid spotter, and a liquid traffic lane cleaner. I didn't bring those with, but that is part of this system. Today we'll probably just focus on these. So this is the traffic lane cleaner. So spotters. So the next thing we were talking about was spotters, right? So who here's done spotting? You've worked on the carpet, so I'm guessing you must have done some spotting. So listen to what this manufacturer says to do. Before using any spotter shampoo, test in an inconspicuous area. That's probably good advice, especially if you're at home. Commercial carpeting, 99.9% of the time, unless it's a really fancy building and they bought like wool carpet or something, but commercial carpeting you'll find in most buildings is going to be safe, you know, from being damaged by any commercial spotter. But if you're at home and you don't know what grade of carpet you bought or whatever, now I want to test the spotter somewhere so that it doesn't remove any dyes or stain the carpet, and then you've got a worse problem. So what's the difference then between a spot and a stain? Who knows? Anyone? Spot and a stain? A spot is something that maybe is more recent, that you know what's there and you can get it out. A stain then is something that is a little more permanent. So wine might be considered a stain, Kool-Aid, things like that, where the carpet's stained. It's got a more permanent connotation to it. So that's why this is called a spot remover. So it says, spray a liberal amount to the stain or spot and let penetrate. So how would you do that? This has a little flip top to it. So you don't want to over engage too much of this, so it's ready to use. You just dab it on the spot. And then it says, working from the outside edge towards the center of the spot, gently agitate with fiber scraper. Or agitate the fiber with the scraper. If you haven't seen it, and I'm betting dollars to donuts, Clark Devon sells these spotting brushes. So it's a little brush with a handle, the handheld brush, and it's got stiff bristles, and then the end of the brush, the blunt end of the brush, probably is tapered to a point like this. So what you don't want to do is just start going like this, because what happens is the spotter emulsifies or loosens the material on the carpet, you're spreading it. So you want to work from the outside in, so you don't just go like this, you kind of work from the outside of the spot to the center of the spot. If it's a really small spot, it's almost impossible, but if it's a bigger spot, you want to push it towards the center, and the brush will have a little blunt edge, and you can agitate the fibers not only with the brush bristles, but the edge, so you can kind of work work the fibers back and forth with the edge of the brush. If it doesn't have that on that brush, then get what's called a spot scraper. So it almost looks like a small little plastic putty knife in a way. Don't use a putty knife because it's a little too aggressive. You'll damage the fibers. But this is similar to that, and you can agitate the fibers without spreading the spot. And then once you've loosened the soil, then you use either an extractor similar to this, or a wet dry vac. Does everyone know what a wet dry vacuum is? So something that can suck up wet things. You know, it's like a shop vac, to use a trade name, but a shop vac, and suck out the soil. If you can't do that, then a white terry cloth towel, and blot and blot and blot. And then rinse with water, blot and blot and blot, till you get all the much liquid as you can out, and then inspect the spot. If it's still there, you gotta do it again, because it ain't going away. So the only way to get it all out is to repeat the process. Repeat the process. And then, you know, if it's wine, Kool-Aid, mustard, you know, there's some tough things, especially on a light colored carpet. You've got to go to a little different type of chemistry. And I think that's another topic for another day, but you can resource that through Devon and find, you know, those specialty products for those special kind of stains. But generally, something like this will get out 99% of what you're going to run into. So that's spotting. Now, we've gone around, we've spotted wherever we found spots, we've got them out. Now we're going to clean the carpet. And again, if I can draw you a little thing. So this is going to be our building, and we've got things in the way. So this is where you're coming in this building, and these are desks or something, couches, whatever, in the room in the way. So the natural flow of traffic would go around like that, like a little question mark. The dirt is going to be right here. That's where the biggest concentration of dirt is going to be. Where we walk in from the outside and come and walk, whatever the walking pattern is, the traffic pattern, you got to look at that. You want to vacuum the heck out of that to start with. And then, whether you're using this system or this system, you've got to loosen that soil. Now, the dry vacuum did a lot of that work, got a lot of that out. But the stuff that's stuck to those fibers, you've got to loosen it some way. Otherwise, it's just not coming out. So we have what's called the traffic lane cleaner. The traffic lane cleaner, you mist on or spray on, and again, don't overuse. And this manufacturer says, well, it's ready to use. Traffic lane cleaner breakdown. Doesn't really say how much to use, but don't overuse it. You don't want to saturate the carpet with this. You want to get sort of a mist on there so you can just sort of see it on the carpet, but it's not like soaking wet. So almost like a damp sponge, about that level. Let it set for a few minutes, maybe 2 or 3 while you're getting your equipment ready, and then go with either this or this system. If you're using this particular system, the way you use this is there's two buttons here. So you turn on the machine, and then so you turn on what's called the pump, or the thing that's pumping the water out, and then there's a button here to activate the solution. So for the traffic lane, to start with, I would run it 1 time or 2 times across, and then the vacuum shoe, which is this little manifold that sucks up the water, almost acts like an agitator to loosen the soil. So when you're on the traffic lane, kind of move it back and forth, so up and down, and then this way. So now if this is our carpet, we're agitating this side of the fiber by going this way, and then this side and this side. So you go north, south, east, west. You always want to do that kind of north, south, east, west on heavy soiled areas so that you get all sides of the fibers. With me on this? So you want to dwell a little while on the traffic lanes so you get that heavy soil. And then maybe that's all you need to do for this particular period or time. And one thing people make a mistake doing in carpet care is we tend to wait too long. You know, where we see dirt on a hard surface floor, we see it. But on carpeting, we tend, for whatever reason, not to notice it or worry about it. So depending on your building, you know, and the situation, maybe 6 months is way too long. People might try and clean their carpets every 6 months when they get really grungy looking. It would be better to do it more frequently, and it would be less work, and the carpet would, instead of having an appearance level that starts out, say, here, and then degrades down, and then you bring it back up to here, and it degrades way down. Keep it, you know, at an even, nice level. And vacuuming is key, but then what's called spotting and traffic lane cleaning is also very fruitful. Depending on your building, it might be once a month. It might be more frequently. So that's a subjective thing. You'll have to make that call. What's the appearance level of the carpet, the appearance level of your carpet that you want to maintain? And then what do you have to do to get to that? You following me? Okay. So let's, we can't really demonstrate these, but I did want to point out the way that these work basically is you've got two tanks, solution and recovery tank. You put the solution in one, and then there's a button here you press. So you move this actually, so as I'm moving this forward, I'm pressing this button. See this button right here? That's the dispense button. And you can, the directions are on here, but anyway, as you move forward across the dirty carpet, you're pressing this button, and then you drop the shoe down and you pull it back like this. Pretty basic. And as you're pulling back, you would release this button, and so you're sucking out the water the water solution that you just sprayed into the carpet. And that's how this works. It's pretty simple. I don't know if you're all familiar with it, but anyway, there's two tanks in there, and there's an on-off switch here, and then an upholstery or carpet button. And then, I don't know if you folks are in the need for this, but we also sell a blower that you can rent. You can rent all these things. You can get a blower if you need to dry the carpet a little faster. And the way to use these, pretty obvious, but you want this blowing over the largest surface of the carpet you can have. This particular unit is just on or off. There's 3 speeds, but if you have a larger area, you might want to get more than one. And don't run them all on the same circuit, but have them around, and maybe even if you can afford to do it, not afford to do it, but you can manage to do it, have an open window or something, because what you're really trying to do is evaporate water. So depending on the weather and what the situation is, the faster you need to dry the carpet is just moving water. But these are also available to rent. These rent for $21 a day for the blower. The wet extraction machine, there's 2 sizes. One is $30 a day, the larger one is $40 a day. Any questions on wet extraction? Am I covering most everything? Good. I did want to, since we have it here, show you just a little bit more about this, because it's a little less known, this particular system. And we'll just clean this end of the mat here. So this machine, this machine comes on a little dolly, and we'll put that out of the way. And then I don't know if you can see from way in the back, but See these brushes underneath here? Those are what I was talking about. This would be a pile lifter type of brush. It's stiff bristles, tufted, and it's going to really agitate the carpet a lot. So the way this machine works, it's got two cylindrical brushes, big ones like this, that are counter-rotating. And so they agitate the carpet, but they're always moving the soil towards the middle. And there's a big vacuum shoe in between the two of them that sucks everything up. So it's a little different than this type of machine. And the way well, first, because this is so dirty, we're going to do traffic lane cleaner. So I'm just going to clean. I'm just going to clean a little part of this mat. So I'm misting the traffic lane cleaner on here. And we're going to let that go while we get this other thing ready. So again, what we've got is a cellulose sponge ground up into little bits. Feel that? Just moist, right? Just like a moist sponge. And the beauty of this system is anybody can do it. It's really almost impossible to mess up with this.
I thought it was going to be green.
No, it's just like a cellulose sponge, same kind of color. So you just put some down. And in a really large application, you'll see in the brochure, there's a little applicator tool, that almost like a seed spreader kind of tool. I don't know if you saw it in the back of the brochure, but we have a product that you could do that with. So the first thing you want to do is always the same. You know, I was talking about with the wet extraction, you want to hit the fibers from all four sides. It's the same thing here. So what we normally recommend is you just brush it in without the vacuum on. Now I'm going the other way to get the fibers from the other angle. In this machine, you really don't need any expertise to handle it. The little brushes are just floating down there. Now this mat is kind of worn out right down the middle. So we'll see how this turns out. So now I brushed it as much as I think I can. I'm going to turn the vacuum on. So we're still brushing the carpet right now. So some of it's kind of visual. You're looking to see where it's bad. And where it all goes, the vacuum is a cyclonic. You know, there's a bunch of filters up here. So it comes up this hose, back down into this cyclonic filtering system here, and then into this bin. But you can see, you saw what the product was when we put it down, how it would look like a cellulose sponge. Now it's totally full of dirt. Right down the middle? I think that's where it's worn out, is my view of it. You know what? It's not worn out. That is impacted with a lot of dirt. We'll have to address that in a second. So you can see how much dirt it got out to start with. Now what we'd have to do there, I mean, if you want to come up and look at it, this mat is impacted with dirt about this thick down the middle. So we've got to loosen that somehow. Probably our best bet is going to be well, we didn't talk about these other products, but we'll get back to those. I think we're just going to try and put a little more of this right on here. It's just really impacted.
You got to remember, these are our mats. We're not necessarily kind to them, so we've.
A doormat's a hard
Yeah.
one, especially this particular doormat doesn't look like it had much attention.
No,
No
it's
offense.
not like we clean them every couple of weeks. We don't do that. Get a lot of hardware.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, we're gonna use it real good.
So we have to do it a second time, and that's not anything negative about anything. It's just what we're dealing with. So we could find a carpet that looks a little okay, but we want to make it look better, and so it doesn't take this much work. But you got to deal with what you're presented. So we're going to do it a second time. So I gave that traffic lane cleaner a little time to get down there, and I mean, if you touched it, you would have saw it's pretty impacted. And this is probably a good example of a really bad traffic lane. You can see it went right down the middle of the carpet, or runner. And that's why in a normal environment where you had a larger traffic lane, you want to dwell on that and work on that, because that's where the dirt is. So we're giving it a lot of attention, but again, you got to deal with what you got to deal with. So how are we going to get this thing clean? This is what we're dealing with. So now I'll flip the vacuum down again.
This area right here, we just moved this carpet from right over from this area here. If you look at the floor, you'll see that heavy wear right here. That's where that spot is. People come right in here and say hi to Sam and spend time with Sam.
Yeah.
So that's what that wear in the carpet is. That's right. We got. If we move Sam around, the spot will be larger, maybe. I don't know.
So it's coming, you know. You can see where, you know, on the sides now we've got it looking pretty decent. And again, this is a challenge. With a mat like this, what might be smarter if you had to clean this mat was take it outside in the, you know, in the parking lot and soak it with some kind of heavy degreaser or something and pressure wash it. That would probably make more sense than trying to clean it this way. But that's the only thing we had to work with. So take that in context of carpet cleaning. Yeah, this is a bit extreme. But either way, I think you've got some understanding of both of these systems. This one is a little more idiot-proof. This one, you know, people tend to become chemists. So you want to resist that if you're doing it yourself. If you're instructing others, just stick to the basics, read the directions, and go with what the manufacturer is telling you. It's better to do it twice or 3 times than to try and nuclear bomb the thing out of there, because you're just going to put too much chemical in there and you're not going to be happy with the results. I'm going to say like 40 or 50 pounds. No, I can carry it. I mean, I wouldn't carry it far, but I brought it here. I put it in the back seat of my car. So we have a smaller brother to that one, and I'm not sure what machine you guys have. You got both of them? Okay, yeah. So we have, if you look in the brochure, you'll see there's this Liberator and then the Freestyle. The Freestyle is much lighter, and it comes apart. So you can take it apart, move each part separately, and then put it back together wherever you want. This one, more or less, you cannot do that. Yeah, I was going to say I like this better, but that's not necessarily the case. I like this system better for certain environments and certain people. So you see the contrast between the two. In this system, or both systems, I would recommend follow the label directions. So you've got a traffic lane cleaner, a spotter, and this is pet and stain remover. This is probably odor, right? Odor eliminator and upholstery cleaner. We didn't even talk about upholstery cleaners. This machine has an upholstery setting, so basically it's diverting the air from the vacuum shoe down there to a hose up here where you can go and suck out stuff on a couch or wherever. Yes, sir.
Yellow mark, you clean your couch, and then there's a yellow mark where you cleaned, and it looks funny.
You're leaving a mark on the couch?
Yeah, when it dries, there's a yellow mark where you cleaned, and
Yeah. That's the problem with wet extraction. You have to do the whole thing, whatever it is, you should. It's hard to feather, if you follow me on feathering. With wet extraction, you're always going to leave a little watermark, so you almost have to go the whole cushion or the whole thing. It's hard to feather it. You can, just a little less water and kind of pull it so you smooth it out, but if you just go all water, one swipe down the middle of your cushion and suck out a spot, it's going to show a stripe. Yeah, that's the problem with wet. With this system, you could do it easier. It's not great for upholstery cleaning, though. You can do it. One of the machines you can use it by hand, or you can take a brush, and brush in all the sponge and then vacuum it out.
The host system leaves it pretty much dry,
Correct.
ready to work on.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
And that's the big selling feature of this is, and I don't know if you guys are cleaning commercially or if you work for someplace, but if you're in a 24/7 environment or someplace that needs occupancy real quick after you're finished cleaning, this system's fantastic. I just did a demo with this system up in Appleton, Wisconsin at a nursing home. And the maintenance man there, he said, well, let's go in one of the residents' rooms. So the hallway was not carpeted, but everybody's rooms are carpeted because they live in there. So he moved the lady out, and we moved some of her furniture around. We cleaned with this, and it cleaned well. And then he was standing there and he goes, wow. He says, I can move her right back in. I said, yeah, that's the beauty of this. He goes, normally if I wet extract, he goes, she's out of her room for the day, until it dries. So nursing homes, hospitals, airports, anywhere that's 24/7. Or, if you're doing a home and you want, your customer wants to get back on the carpet quick, this is a fantastic in and out system.
And a question over here. Can I get you on mic so everybody can hear it?
Okay. How big of an area does a bucket cover, clean?
Well, some of that's, how high is up, depending on the dirt level, But I think we're saying 200 square feet per pound. See if it says it here. Should. It doesn't say, but I believe it's 200 square feet per pound. So about a 10 by 20 section. So this is a 2-pound bag, and I did, I don't know what that would be, 2 by 3, 6, 8, maybe 10 square feet there, with a half a pound. So somewhere in that neighborhood. But again, it's the dirt level, how much you want to put down. And I did that by hand. If you were doing a bigger application, you can use this machine, it's not a machine, this applicator here. So it's like a seed spreader, and you open up the little gate, and there's 3 levels of how much you want to put down, light, medium, and heavy. And as you roll it, it just drops a little glob of the sponge every so many feet. So some of it's subjective, but as a general rule, 200 square feet or so, a 10 by 20 spot. And with host, you want to work in those kind of things, either a 10 by 10 or a 10 by 20 section, because you don't want to let the sponge dry out entirely. And it will in 10 minutes or so. So we were going through this pet and stain remover. Obviously these are specialty things. Odor eliminator. The way you would use this is you would add it to your solution. When you're mixing the shampoo in the tank, you would add a little of this if odor is a problem. One of these products comes with it built in. This one, all-in-one product, has the odorizer built in. So you can go down that road if you want. And this one's just the shampoo by itself. And this was what, upholstery cleaner. So here's an array of things you can address with, your project, whatever it might be. Make a plan, figure it out, stick to your plan. And it's better to, and I mentioned this, but I don't know if you're familiar with the rule of 17, but if you repeat something 17 times to yourself, you'll remember it. So I'm going to repeat this again. It's better to do it the right way and then have to go back and do it the right way again than to do it the wrong way and have a mess. So better to follow the label directions and see what the results are and adjust and do it a second time, or maneuver around within the framework of how it's supposed to work. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, at our building we have a wet extract machine. So you were talking earlier about leaving watermarks. When we go down, we always leave a trail of watermarks.
Yeah.
You say how to beat that is from feathering. What exactly do you mean by that?
By feathering? Well, if you were painting, yes. With this machine, the way you would feather is, so this activator button here dispenses the water. So you go forward. When you're going forward, you're dispensing the water. And as you come back, you clean that section. And right along the edge, so I'm working from left to right. So right along this edge, there's a wet line. So now I want to remove that wet line. I move over the wet line by half the machine. And I don't introduce any more water. I suck it again. And then I look, and I might go over it one more time with a very small amount of water, and then move a little more to the right. And so you're sort of feathering out that wet line so it's less and less. And you move, and that's pretty much the best you can do is so you don't have a definitive, distinct line. You're using less and less water as you move to, could be left or right, but for whatever reason I picked right. And you just keep moving a little bit with less water, and you're pulling the water over so that there's not a distinct area. And in a traffic lane situation, you get all the water down the traffic lane, and then you feather it to the wall, because there's not much dirt there anyway. So a little bit of water and the vacuum, and you've got the dirt out by the wall. So that's how you would feather. You don't have to do a lot of work by the wall. Any other questions?
Question. This machine, the wet one, could you turn the vacuum off and agitate first for a little bit before you suck everything out?
In a heavy soil situation like something like this, you would have to.
So you can't turn it off?
You can.
Okay.
Yeah. This unit is wet. Oh no, there's a little brush down there. So there is a brush on this unit. So you can turn the vacuum off and keep, the brush won't go? Tied together? Well, then you can still agitate with it. Just don't introduce any more water. You following me? So the brush and the vacuum are running, but you're not spraying any more water. So you've sprayed enough solution into the carpet. Now you want to agitate. So you just go forward, bring it across, because the brush is now spinning, agitating the carpet, and you just keep working it north, south, east, west. And then see what results you got. Maybe you want to spray a little bit more water in there and suck it out again.